G'day Flosstube, Anna aka Mirabilia back with a stitching update. It is Saturday, May 22nd. Welcome to anybody returning. Welcome to anybody who's stumbled upon my little part of YouTube. I hope you find something you enjoy. This is the last of the vlogs for Maynia. So, bit of a bummer about that, but you know, Maynia's got to end sometime, I suppose. I hope everybody else has enjoyed their Maynia, whatever their idea of Maynia is. I am actually really enjoying this 4 new starts and a week to work on it to get really good progress. I expect that's more the right balance for me, given the size of the projects I tend to pick, than the 31 new starts or whatever some of the other common interpretations are. So at this point, I think I'll do it again next year, because why not? So yes, this will be the very last of the vlog series. After this, we will go back to the regularly scheduled, just sort of update every 2 weeks. You would have noticed we've had quite a few segments, around town and whatnot over the last few weeks. It's the only way to actually try and make it so I can film most days, as if I film under some unique conditions. But I think it's worked all right for the most part. The pictures and whatnot have come out as good as doing it back here under normal she shed lighting. So yeah, I hope you've all enjoyed a tour of the town where I spend all my time. Anyway, without further ado, let's get into it. Just a recap of last week's project, which was Santa's Magic, but doing the color conversion to use a blue-gray type of fabric that I have dyed myself. So this is a 32 count fabric. Like I said, dyed myself. It's just root dye. Aiming for a blue-gray light mottling. So happy enough with how that turned out. Given the lack of organization in prepping this project, I think our start turned out fairly well. Because it was a conversion, we don't have a massive amount of progress, but reasonable. Several of the Krynics, I think, treasure braids, have been chosen, at least as chosen as these things are till I rip them out and change my mind. I think we've tested all the blues, so they should be good to stay. I don't know that I actually stitched a great deal after I filmed my last update. My last update on this piece, it was supposed to be one of those afternoons where I go sit in the local gardens and wait for the kids to get done with school, and I was going to have an hour to stitch and it'd be lovely and peaceful. And the reality is I drove to the gardens and there was construction all through the gardens and I couldn't get in. So I did circuits around the streets to try to get back to this secondary spot where I pick up the kids. And then sat in the car, so that's where I filmed the update. Then I got out of the car and went to go sit in the shade against the building, where at least I'd have a bit of shade to stitch in, and pulled everything out, and then realized somewhere along the line, I'd lost the needle that I usually leave just in the corner of my fabric. So there was no stitching. No gardens and no stitching. It was an abject failure of an afternoon out. So hopefully we won't have a repeat of that, but Santa's Magic turned out well. And actually, that losing my needle was actually the second drama I've had trying to stitch Santa's Magic out in town. About 2 days prior to that, I had been giving my son remedial Python lessons, and so I was dragging my stitching back and forth between my normal stitching spot and the computer where he was working. And I obviously left my scissors at the computer, so when Scentus Magic got packed up to go into town with me, I had no scissors. Fortunately, that time I sent a text message to my husband, who was supposed to be about 5 minutes away. Do you have any scissors or anything I can cut thread in your car? And lo and behold, he found a pair of scissors that I probably left there, some random road trip. I would have been stitching and throwing the scissors in the center console, and they've been there ever since. So that worked in my favor, but it got me thinking. I clearly need an emergency stitching kit in my car. So I need to go find scissors, but little plastic emergency kit. Got a little bit of scrap fabric with a couple of needles to live in, said emergency kit. We're going to throw scissors in there. Probably some wet wipe type things so that I can clean my hands, because that's the other thing I often come into when I'm wandering around town, is where can I wash my hands before I start stitching. And then we will have an emergency stitching kit that will live in the car, so that whatever I've forgotten, I can grab from here. Of course, if I've forgotten the entire project, I'm still scuppered, but there's only so much you can do. I suspect I might actually make 2 of these and put one in each car. My husband will be thrilled to be dragging around my stitching every day. So with that little sidetrack, this week, last week I did not spin the wheel, I spit the dummy, which is an official Aussie phrase for those of you who are not Aussies. I spit the dummy and I said, nope, not gonna spin the wheel. I'm gonna pick my new start because I feel like it. And so I picked Shakespeare's Fairies. Now, when I was going through before Maynia, trying to figure out what fabrics and stuff I was going to do this on, I paired Shakespeare's Fairies with Sea God. It's a 28 count by Under the Sea Fabrics. And I had a lovely big piece of it, which meant I could put both Shakespeare's Fairies and Joan Elliott's Winter Geisha on the same piece of fabric, because it's about the right color for both. And grab my thing. That is the start we have. Just one of the lantern baubles in the middle there. So when I started off, got up this morning to start stitching, at that point I still hadn't bobbinated anything. I hadn't cut this fabric. I hadn't photocopied my working copy. And so by the time I got all that done, it was darn near noon before I started stitching. And it's probably 5 o'clock-ish now. So not super productive, given I haven't had a great deal of other jobs to do. But, I've been chatting on virtual stitchers and other such things that, one has to do to enjoy one's time off. So, yeah, that's the start we have. The goal now is to start working this center fairy. I reckon she's the one where you're most likely to run into issues with her not standing out from the fabric choice. I don't actually think it will be a big issue because the bulk of the bottom is a border of beads, which I think will stand out just fine. Everywhere else that her colors sort of blend, it tends to, it backs onto other fabrics, so you're going to see plenty of contrast, or other threads. So you're going to see plenty of contrast in that spot. The only exception is right under, at the top of her dress, there's a section there before the beads kick in that is potentially going to blend in a little bit with a fabric choice. So I kind of want to stitch just this bit and see how it looks. My thought is, given that that's the only bit I'm really even vaguely concerned about, that worst case scenario, I'll just put a little bit of back stitching in there and it should be good. Yeah, so I'm not super worried about it. I think there'll be plenty of contrast, but you can see, it blends more in the camera, but that's the mid-tone of blue in her dress, and that is blending fairly well into the fabric. If like her entire dress was exposed to the edge of the fabric, you'd probably have to backstitch the whole thing. But I think we'll get away with it in this piece. But yeah, so first job is basically to get to that little bit of dress, stitch it, see what we think. Like I said, I'm not expecting big problems, but we'll just rule it out so that we're not worrying about it indefinitely. Beyond that, I don't know. I expect tomorrow's just going to be all dress, and after that, we will figure it out after that. All right, so I will see you tomorrow with update then. Bye. G'day, Flosstube. Monday, May 24. Yep, I missed Sunday. No good excuse. I just plain got occupied on virtual stitchers, gas bagging, packed up, totally forgot to film an update. It is what it is. I'll insert a picture of where I was yesterday. The problem is, I can't actually remember what's on that picture. I think, can't remember what's on that picture. So, there you have it. That's what I did yesterday. Sorry guys, we'll try and do better. As for 24 hours after that picture was taken, almost, I don't think I've got a huge amount of progress, but I've been pushing out more into the skirt. I've been running a border of the next skirt along, just basically to try and visually block off that this is the end of where I have to kind of fill in. Yeah, that's the only purpose in there. I did start filling in some of the wings to get a good idea of how those colors are going. I have the treasure braid that will go into the wings up here is on order, so I'm not going to be able to fill those in. My guess is that treasure braid is going to show up just as I disappear to this cross stitch retreat. So that's kind of a bummer of timing, but you know, my bigger problem is that no doubt if I leave, package arrives, children and hubby will turn around and hide said package and think it's hilarious. So I'll tell you next time, first update, whether I ever found that package. But I have beads and treasure braid that should hopefully be coming. Anyway, back on topic. Been doing more skirt, stitching these colors, a bit pestilent actually on this particular background fabric. It's quite close, particularly these dark colors, quite close to the fabric. And some of the light colors, there's not a whole lot of distinction between the colors, so it's hard to tell, oh, have I done the equal sign? Have I done the backslash? Have I done the forward slash? So it's been a bit pestilent, but we're persevering. And yeah, I'm hoping, like by the time we get down here, there's a little bit more skirt, but it actually doesn't come very far. You can see I'm almost at the end of the fabric. So I'd like to focus on filling out some more of that middle fairies skirt, but I would probably go off and do a little bit of wing or something else every few threads, just so that I don't get totally annoyed with the counting and the trying to distinguish colors in here. So I think this front edge up here, that's exactly what that edge will look like as charted. There's no back stitching along that top bit. By the time you get down here, you'll have beads and stuff that go in. I don't think it's, like obviously that darker color does blend a little bit. I'm not super against it. I think it's one of those things I'll basically wait until the very end. You know, when I get the fairies' faces and everything backstitched, then we can make a bit more of a decision as to whether or not I think it needs anything there. But for the moment, I'm not super mad at it. I think it's fine. The other thing I was thinking should get out the picture for those of you who, oops, sorry, that's instant messenger thing about the retreat. I will have to read that later. So for those of you, probably just saw this picture in the last segment, but you know. So 3 little fairies. Looking at this, it occurs to me that this is like the perfect pattern to go and make sort of a rainbow of fairies in terms of ethnicity and stuff. So my biggest thing is, if I do that, I don't know what to change them to. Do I randomly pick ethnicities? Do I have some logic to it? The only logic I can come up with is if you leave one fairy as a white European, do one fairy the Asian, Southeast Asian, Korean, and one fairy of African descent, then that sort of reflects the ethnicities in my extended family. And while there's lots of little girls of Korean heritage in my family who would be thrilled to see little Korean fairies, I'm not convinced the boys will be so thrilled with the African descent fairies and thinking they inspired those. So I don't know. Teenage boys, are they ever inspired with anything? Anyway, so, but beyond that, I don't really have a plan or a logic. And then I'm thinking, you know, particularly on the darker skin tones, like I have no idea when it comes to clothing on darker skin tones, would I want to change the color of the dress? I don't know. So I think I'd have to do some Googling. You know, clearly I dress white European skin and I don't even do a particularly good job of that at any given day. Yeah, so I don't know what to do with that. So at the moment I'm basically just avoiding anything that's skin and hair so that I can put that decision off for another day. If anybody has a great theory, let me know. Beyond that, it was a random thought that popped into my head because I had 3 fairies to work with, and I thought, oh, we could make a rainbow. But yeah, so that's about it. For the purposes, I think, of Maynia, we will skip all hair and skin and leave that decision for another day. So that's where we are at. I am going to go get started getting ready for this retreat. Actually, if this doesn't go up on time, it's because I've already skipped town and I'm on a retreat, and I apologize in advance. I'll get it up when I get back. Yeah, so I'm going to go pack, then I will start stitching and be back and let you see how I did in another 24 hours. See you then. Today, Flosstube, Tuesday, 20-something. I'd say one day I'll get this date thing sorted, but you know, the reality is, yeah, I got no hope. It's Tuesday. Actually feel like I spent quite a bit of time stitching last night. However, I don't think I've got a whole lot to show for it. So I basically have been trying to fill in this dress from sort of, that's the one edge, and then working across and forward. Yeah, it seems like an awful small corner, like that much I think is more or less filled all the way up, but it seems like an awful small corner given how many threads I've put into that thing. I even stayed up a good couple of hours past when I would normally have crashed. No particular reason, just was stitching and enjoying. Yeah, and I don't really feel like I got much to show for it, but that's what it is. And I expect tonight will be more or less more of the same, you know, so hopefully we can work our way further across. It's hard to say. I almost reckon I could see this week out just trying to fill in that skirt. There's a lot of stitches in that skirt. But no doubt I will get bored as anything if I just try and do plain skirt. But I think for today, maybe we should try and push through and continue with more skirt. So, see you tomorrow. Hopefully a bit closer to the end of the skirt. Talk to you later. Bye. Hey, Flosstube. It's Wednesday, March 20th, May 26th. I looked up the date. Takes me a minute to remember the actual day of the week. Cannot win. In any case, Wednesday. It's been a long day. It's quite a late update. It's got to be almost 7 o'clock tonight, so I won't get much stitching after I turn in tonight. We'll have dinner and the regular routine will take over, but it is what it is. So, I've been continuing to work on this skirt. I have actually reached, so that is the full extent, you know, it goes into the next fairy there. And about even with that is the edge, front edge of that skirt. So the end of this skirt is at least confined to that area, which it must come in actually rather than going straight out, but at least for there, it's still going out. In any case, we are making progress. There's a fair bit more skirt there than was there before. At this point, the shortage of brain cells, guys. I think all we're doing is skirt because it's easy. Back and forth. Just work our way along. So, yeah. I'll see you tomorrow. Probably with more skirt. Right? Bye. G'day, Flosstube. Thursday. I think that makes it the 27th. Not a great deal of progress in the last 24 hours because it was so late when I filmed yesterday. I think that was yesterday. All the days blur. Since it was so late yesterday, basically I was exhausted and didn't do a great deal last night and been too busy to do anything more during the day today. Didn't even get a thread in this morning before I went to work. So, I remember filling in a bit more of the purple skirt. Essentially, I think I did a little bit more in the bottom skirt and then decided I was just over the blues, the blue-gray colors. I needed something else. So I started filling in some purples. And I'm pretty sure yesterday when I was talking, I was rather pleased with myself because I thought I'd reached the farthest extent of this. And I don't know what pattern I was reading because clearly it is not the one associated with this particular piece of stitching. Because it just keeps going and going with more blue colors. So I have no idea where this extreme of those blue colors are. But I don't think I'm anywhere near it. And I have no idea why I thought I was. So, yeah, not a heap of progress, but I think for tonight I'll probably move over to the purple just for a break from the blues, because after all week of blues, I think I've had enough. Time for a change. This will be the last vlog segment for this week. So I will work on this all day tomorrow while I am traveling and, well, when I'm not too busy gas bagging with the others at the retreat. I will work on this for tomorrow. And after that, then I will switch to whatever other project inspires me. But I will see out the last of my Maynia week on this piece, but you won't get to see tomorrow's progress until my first regular Flosstube update. I think I will probably wait 2 weeks from this weekend before I film that first one, but we'll just play that a bit by ear and see how we go. Other than that, not much to say. That wraps up Maynia. I hope everybody enjoyed my projects. I hope you all enjoyed your projects. See you again next May. See you, Flosstube.